Sarah Preston. I'm a product marketing manager at Planet. Now, a product marketing manager, product marketing can mean a lot of different things at a lot of different organizations, but what I do is I work across our product and our marketing team and our sales teams to really find the right fit for our imagery and to understand what our prospects and what our audiences need out of imagery, even if they don't know it yet. As you can imagine, narratives are an extremely important part of what I do. So I'm super excited to be here with you all to geek out about data-driven storytelling. Okay, so first, why do we tell stories in the first place? Stories are paths to community and understanding. So think about all the stories that you loved growing up. There was some kind of connection that you made either to a character, to the author, or to the setting that drew you in and made it really memorable. You joined that community that was telling that story. And within that story, whether it's fact or fiction, there was information, and you got to learn from others in that community and to build an understanding about the world around you. What is a good story? So a good story is driven by emotion and balanced by fact. That's one of my favorite quotes actually that I heard. I can't claim ownership of it, but really when we listen to a great story and we create a connection to a story, we're really feeling some emotion. And emotions can be extremely powerful motivators. So think in or outside of the workplace even, an emotion can be excitement, it can be fear, it can be confusion, it can be ambition, but also a very human desire to understand the world around us. Emotions, they get us engaged in a story and interested, but facts and data, they keep us grounded. So as an example of how you might be able to see this, Planet took this image of Pripyat, Ukraine back in April. Now this was when Pripyat was experiencing massive wildfires, and this was right outside of the Chernobyl exclusion zone that you can see in the center there. It was an extremely dangerous time. Already a dangerous area, radiation levels had spiked 16 times more than usual. And Ukrainian officials were telling the world basically that these fires had been controlled and extinguished. Clearly not the case. Now, hearing this, when we talk about emotions, hearing this story in the news, you can't help but feel a sense of fear, maybe helplessness, and anxiety, and all these emotions that are driving, maybe not necessarily the international community, but driving officials to understand what is happening and how can we solve it. Well, Planet came in and we captured this image, and this image has a lot of data in it to help move these decisions forward, to help these move and capture these emotions. So when we look at this image, we can see where the smoke is drifting. That tells us where the wildfire might be spreading to. We can see how far the wildfire has already spread on a grander scale. We can see how close it is to the Chernobyl exclusion zone, so how radiation levels might continue to increase. And it tells us a lot about where we can deploy resources and where we can deploy flame retardant and at the same time keep all of our first responders safe. We had these emotions that we were feeling at the beginning, and a really good way to think about it is emotions, they move us forward, they encourage us to do something, but facts and data, they move us forward in the right direction. They give us an idea or an insight about where to go. So how do we craft great stories? Great stories is really about taking our audience, or on a business scale, our prospects, on a journey from ignorance to understanding. Now, there are not 3 key points to creating a great story. This could be an hour-long seminar, and I've been to them before. It's such a fascinating subject, but given the time we have, I narrowed it down to 3 points that I think are very important. Know your audience. You want to understand what are their motivations, what are their expectations, maybe what do they feel themselves on a daily basis, What's their vocabulary? So how do they communicate with each other and interact with the rest of the world? You want to really clarify the problem. So every story has its key conflict. So you want to understand what exactly is the conflict of the story you're building and what is driving it, whether that is the emotions. And then you want to create some insight. So what is the data showing us? So this is the second half of the storytelling. How do we get past the conflict and use that data to create an insight to move us all forward? And here is an example also at Planet of how we recently used those points to create a broader story. So we started work with the New Mexico State and Land Office, and they were looking to monitor permitting activity in the Permian Basin. You can see that on the right side of the screen, a sample image. And there was a lot of mining activity out there, but they just couldn't see it in the way they wanted to. So first, what we did here is we had to know your audience, right? So we understood and came to understand how exactly the office itself functions, how it fits in with the broader civil government, what exactly is their legal mandate, who is our main point of contact, and how to best really work with them in the first place. This is knowing how to communicate with them. Now, once we know how to communicate with them, we can clarify the problem. So why is the office really experiencing this challenge? Why did they have very poor visibility into the more remote Permian Basin? Well, aerial photography, like they've tried, was very slow and resource intensive, as was manned surveys. So sending people out there to actually see what's going on. It was growing expensive. They were growing frustrated really that they didn't really have a good way to monitor this land. So what Planet did was, now that we knew our audience and we'd been clarifying the problem, we were able to deliver the data to really create a good insight to solve their challenge. So this is sample data again right here on the right of the screen. We deliver near daily imagery to them so they can see change and what's actually happening in activity. And once they see that activity, then they can deploy resources, whether that's people or anything else to solve that issue. And before I wrap up, I want to put another little plug. If you're interested in learning more about storytelling at Planet, we actually have a customer conference coming up in October, and we're going to be featuring customers and partners talking about how they used our imagery for their own storytelling and how they've been able to build their own paths to understanding and building their own communities. The reason I want to feature this here is because it's actually completely free this year and online, so very, very accessible. And before I completely close out, my last point really is, we are in a hugely data-driven world, and it's really not so much about just collecting data anymore. It's about collecting the right data and really understanding how to use it, how we get insights and go from that ignorance to that understanding to create solutions and to create great stories around our world. I don't think I have time for questions, but that is my short brief. Again, this is a topic I could talk about at length, but hopefully you captured something out of this. I said that tonight. We could all be stars. I said that tonight. We could all be stars. I said that tonight. We could